Speaking of proportionality and sort of moving on a little bit, Nigel, we've obviously gone through a very strange period in the history of this country and the world over the last couple of years. And we've seen, you know, I don't think you're a big government guy. I'm not, I'm not a big government guy. And yet we have seen, I mean, on the continent, you talk about Germany and Austria, et cetera, locking unvaccinated people in their homes, fining, et cetera. But even in this country, I mean, I love this country. I've made my home here. And one of the reasons I love it is that you're free to do what you think is the right thing, whatever the situation is. And you're free to have your opinion until recently, and so on and so forth. And over the last 2 years, we have seen the state attempting to interfere in things that I just don't think it has a role in. You know, what have you made of the last 2 years? The sort of vaccine passports, the idea of vaccine mandates, all of that.
Horrified by it all. And in the first 18 months of this, astonished at the lack of pushback. You know, YouGov do a poll and, you know, 64% agree with lockdown and 20% want to go further, right? You think, what's going on? Do you know what? In the end, actually, the good common sense, allied to a free press, have won the day. Well, let's remember, we're sitting here in the second week of February. Mid-December, we had Valence, Whitty, the Brothers Grimm. we had.
I'm going to steal that. That is
well,
very
just
good.
Seeing them is so depressing, isn't it? We had Boris Johnson do a Sunday night address to the nation in which he used the word emergency 4 times about Omicron. All the while, we have the South Africans, where this variant had developed, telling the rest of the world, unlike the Chinese, but telling the rest of the world what was coming our way and explaining that it was much milder than anything that had gone before and in the end would help to build natural immunity and might actually, oddly, on balance, be a good thing. So mid-December, emergency, lockdowns, catastrophe, the end is nigh. Second week of February, and restrictions about to end completely. How did that happen? Well, it happened because we have commentators, free press commentators arguing enough's enough. It happened because there was a backbench rebellion. I mean, the same mob that fought Theresa May over Brussels and all these things. And the good common sense of the British people has come into play, and that's put Boris into line. Interesting, isn't it, that the second country to follow this route is Denmark. Also a country that hasn't joined the euro, is deeply Eurosceptic and will no doubt leave the European
All roads
Union.
lead to Berlin with Nigel.
Well, but you can't deny it, you know. So actually, this is a good sign. The fact that we've gone in the space of a few weeks from looking like more lockdowns to where we are is a very, very good sign that actually good common sense in the end does prevail in this country. As for, you know, what is happening in Australia and countries like that, New Zealand, I just can't get a handle on it.
But it's not just those two. It's Austria, it's Germany, it's Italy, it's France,
Spain.
It's the developed world.
Well, thank God we've left the European Union. No, I mean, you know, the vaccine rollout, all these things are
That
actually
was despicable. Their behaviour was despicable with the vaccine rollout.
Stunning, you know, stunning. I mean, the way they behaved, and you know, the Guardian telling us that if we left the European Medicines Agency, it would prove that Brexit was a death cult, but it's all wrong. Yeah, look, I'm very worried about this growth of huge government, but I see in Canada, as we speak, it's day 13 of a protest. I generally am pretty appalled by mob rule, but I don't see it as mob rule. Well, everything indicates to me that the truckers and their supporters are behaving peacefully, behaving well, that the attempts by Trudeau and others to smear them as being far-right extremists simply aren't working. And this is a really big stand. And rather like we've won the battle on the NHS vaccine mandate, and I've been banging on about this on my show night after night for weeks. What's happening in Canada? I think the pendulum is beginning to turn back, and I think it will start to turn back in other countries. But we've seen the tendency, haven't we, of governments to use any excuse, any crisis, to build their power. And so, that's the next big battle, isn't it? This is a battle genuinely for liberty, for freedom, for individual choice. And I am going to stick to my theme of the last 30 years, which is globalist structures. Whether it is the European Union, whether it is the United Nations, whether it is the World Health Organization, will always seek to expand. They seek to expand, well, look at NATO in the Ukraine. They seek to expand geographically.
We're going to have a big argument about that later.
They seek to expand, but they seek to expand their own powers. And actually, the antidote to this are democratically run nation states with directly accountable politicians. I honestly believe this all fits in to the whole theme of my political life.
Nigel, do you not feel that with all the lockdowns, the draconian measures that we've seen, what we've actually done is open a Pandora's box? So next time there is a particularly bad flu season, for example, we're going to have a few restrictions. Otherwise, the NHS is going to be overwhelmed. If there's a new variant next year, etc., etc.
Yeah, climate lockdowns. Why not? I mean, Sadiq Khan seems to be very keen to drive every car off the roads of London. What if the, particle per million parts of nitrous oxide reaches a certain level in East London and they decide, no more cars for a week? Or I do worry that precedent's been set. But I do worry about that. But I still think that this victory of common sense that we've achieved over the last couple of months in the UK, I think that'll stand us in quite good stead. I hope it'll stand us in quite good stead. But as for Austria, Germany, New Zealand, maybe it's gone. It's funny, isn't it? We seem to have a younger generation, not all of them, but a younger generation, many of whom seem to think that values matter more than freedom and liberty.
And safety.
And safety and the rule of law. I mean, how a jury in the trial of the Colston Four could decide that what happened wasn't criminal damage kind of shows you what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That and when you start to believe in these values, and these values become a substitute for religion, whether it's the fight against global warming, the fight against racism, historic wrongs, and it's a list as long as your arm. And you start to believe that your view has a moral superiority over people with another view. That's when you start to throw things like liberty, freedom, justice, rule of law out of the window. So these are very big challenges going ahead. And I think longer term, one of the big issues that we're going to have to address, if we really do care about the size of a state, about individual freedom, is the way young people are being educated. And I think that is the real cancer in society. I think that it starts at primary school. This isn't just university. This isn't just a few sort of wacky lefty professors. This is actually right through the education system. And we seem to have stopped teaching critical thinking. Stop teaching people that, here's a potential problem, here are two approaches to it, they're both valid, and you make your mind up which of these you think is the right way to deal with society. And that's kind of been replaced by, well, this one's, good and moral, and this one's evil. So that does pose, a big problem in the years to come. But I'm still confident. I'm still bullish. I still think common sense is there. I still think there is a when push comes to shove, a silent majority who are for good things and sensible things. I still think we have, particularly with Brexit, an important leadership role that we can be an example to others in the world. So, yeah, I can't help it. I still come out as the eternal optimist.